let me give you guys a good intro. We'll kind of kick this off. So appreciate everybody showing up. I know people are still popping in here, but um, wanted to get Steve on today and really talk about a little bit about the industry as we were just doing. But there are definitely changes that are happening, right? There are things that are going on that, the governments, the local governments, the state governments are just, they're chopping away at wholesaling really from every angle. And states have been doing this for quite a while, right? Last 5 or 6 years, and none of them have really figured it out, right? The laws were so poorly written; they were written by a fifth grader. We could drive a Mack truck through them, but somebody's finally figured it out, and that's South Carolina with their law 47 or statute 4754 for anybody that wants to actually look it up. And these guys actually got it figured out. They probably had some help from NAR, from the realtors, because of course we're public enemy number one for most realtors that don't understand what we do. And I am not an attorney, and I'm not going to pretend to be one here. But my understanding of it is, after going through it, is they said you have to be an agent to wholesale. And then later in the law said, we're also outlawing, if you're an agent and you're governed by the state, we will not allow you to do a wholesale deal. And there was some verbiage in there that really defined a signing, but that was more for contract law than for
Yeah.
real estate. So that's what you get in some
Yeah.
goofballs.
And
Yeah.
and let's make sure we address that at the very end. Let's make
Yeah.
sure we address that because I do have some perspective on it, and I'm not a lawyer, right? I'm not a lawyer, but I was a real estate broker,
Yeah.
and so I definitely want to address those. So let's go ahead and get into it if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody, yeah, again, I'm sure all of you guys know who Steve Trang is, but super, super happy to have you on today. And let's just kind of have a conversation and talk about how we've talked about some workarounds for this.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and thank you for that. Just some real quick background about me. So first of all, I just want to share, I'm not the creator of this, right? Like I'm not the genius that figured this out.
Mhm.
But what I do have is a lot of experience on the realtor side as well as the wholesaling and flipping side. And so I have a slightly different perspective, right, on this whole matter. So this actually came from somebody else. So there's a couple of guys on the East Coast in South Carolina, Matt Crawford, Alex Fisher, and Jordan Schutz. These are the guys that are wholesaling in South Carolina, right? And they use a closing attorney, Blair Cato, in South Carolina. One of the owners of Blair Cato is also a real estate commissioner,
Right.
right? So he's a real estate commissioner. He's also a closing attorney. And in 22, right? I think July of 22, but in 22, there was a situation where a realtor listed a property for a wholesaler on the MLS, right? So
Mhm.
so the wholesaler did not have equitable interest. And so she listed it. The wholesaler actually didn't get in trouble. There was no precedent for this.
Right.
But she was marketing a property that she did not have a listing agreement signed. So this
Mm.
wasn't even about wholesaling. She just got in trouble she got dragged in front of the board for
Yeah.
marketing a property that she did not have a listing agreement. Just think about that. This is how this whole thing started. And in that hearing, several of the commissioners, because there's I think 10 of them, several of them got really upset, not at her, she got in trouble, but they actually got upset at wholesaling, which was not what the hearing was about. But the conclusion of the hearing is wholesaling is a problem, and it takes advantage of the people that need our help the most.
Right.
Right. So this was the beginning, and he sees this. Gary Pickren, the closing attorney, is also a real estate commissioner. Is like, so, and he, by the way, like he's done a lot for the wholesaling community as a closing attorney. That's his number one client was a wholesaler, not anymore because of what happened here. But he saw the writing on the wall, and he's got Matt, Jordan, and Alex as his clients. And he's like, guys, wholesaling is not going to work anymore. Not the way it is. It's a matter of time. It's a ticking time bomb. This is 22.
Yeah.
So let's come up with a workaround, a way to get around this. And they were looking at novations, right? Hey, what do we do novations?
Mhm.
Well, in novations, you still don't quite have ownership. And so they kept banging their head in the wall. And they're like, well, what do we do a contract for a deed? Right? What do we do a contract for a deed? Do an installment sale and leverage that to have the ability to market the property on MLS because now we have ownership. We're on the title.
Mhm.
And that's what we're talking about today. because the installment sale has been around since the 1800s. If you guys
Right.
aren't familiar with the installment sale, it wasn't really commonly used. It's been fairly uncommon in the last couple of decades, right? It really was big in the 1950s through 1970s because of redlining. And this might be really boring for you guys, but just kind of want to kind of get you up to speed as to how we got to where we are. You're familiar with redlining and blockbusting, David?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Grossly illegal. So for those of you guys who don't know, this is basically what all the major banks were doing to not give loans to African Americans and Hispanic Americans, right? Major corporations were redlining and blockbusting, not giving mortgages to minorities. So what happened? Installment sales became very, very prevalent in 50s, 60s, 70s, and I think into the 80s, right? So that's how we know installment sales are fine because they've been around forever. So they use an installment sale, they put a property under contract, they're on title, they can market the property on the MLS, much like we did with novations. And now instead of collecting a 10 to 15K assignment fee, these guys are regularly collecting between a 30 and 50K profit on a wholesale type of deal.
Right.
I have a friend, Felipe Bosans. Do you know Felipe, David?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Right? One of the founders of 80/20 REI.
Yeah.
And he kind of is like, yeah, this is basically wholesaling 2.0.
Sure.
Right? Novations was wholesaling 2.0. Installment method is wholesaling 2.0.
Yeah.
You take ownership to the property without buying it with a full purchase price. This on MLS, sell it to a conventional VA or cash buyer,
Mhm.
and you get to sell it for retail versus cash
Yeah.
pricing.
Right.
Yeah. So that's basically any questions so far. I mean, like, I want this to be a conversation. So any questions
Yeah.
so far about what we talked about before I go a little bit deeper into this?
Yeah, let's throw your questions in the chat and I'll monitor them for sure. Somebody had mentioned that Rick that we need an association. Absolutely. Jerry Norton's been working on that for some time.
He's the best.
Yeah, I mean
He's
the problem is nobody represents us and investors, we're the easiest target for Republicans and Democrats. Like they, you know, we're the people taking advantage of the, supposedly the
I
real.
mean, the reality is the National Association of Realtors is the second most powerful lobby, right? Like the only
Yeah,
lobby more powerful than the National Association of Realtors is the National Rifle Association,
right.
right? The Second Amendment. Like that's the only one more powerful than the Realtor
Yeah.
Association. So truthfully, I think I'm kind of shocked it took this long for them to finally figure it out. Because they've hated
Yeah.
wholesalers for a long time.
Yeah, and it's honestly it's lack of education, and I've had this conversation probably like you with hundreds of realtors over the decades. But yeah, they feel like we're stealing their business, and the reality is,
Such
we're
scarcity
doing
mindset is irritating.
well, yeah, 100%. But we're doing the stuff that nobody wants to deal with, right? All of us investors, we're out there looking for people with problems, and we're solving the complex title issues. We're helping people with quick closes. I mean, I'm sure you've had this happen. I've had realtors call me and say, "Hey, can you come look at this house and just buy it?" And I'm like, "Well, why
Mhm.
don't you list it?" And they're like, "Well, the lady's a hoarder. She doesn't want her neighbors to be able to see it. She just wants someone to be done with it, right?" And
Privacy. Yep.
50 people in this room, we've got probably 200 different stories about stuff like that. So clearly, we do serve a purpose. But again, the great thing about wholesaling and investing is anybody can get into it. The bad thing is anybody can get into it, and there are just enough knuckleheads that have screwed it up that this
Yeah.
is what happens. So
But the reality is every industry has a few bad actors, right? Like there was a time in my life where I was focused on purely being just a realtor. That
yeah,
was it. That was my focus, right?
right.
And I had these people like, you're just a realtor. All you guys are incompetent. You guys don't return phone calls,
Yeah.
right? All
Well,
you guys do is put a sign in the yard, right? And I get this all the time. And I would consistently, my retort to that would be, that's interesting you bring that up. I'm kind of curious, when you go to work, like are 100% of the people every bit as competent as you, or maybe you have a few knuckleheads at work too. Like
sure.
I do. Like, yeah. So like you got a bunch of idiots at work. They're like, yeah. It's like, okay, so should I judge you based off all the idiots that you work with? They're like, no. It's like, so how come you're judging me by all the idiots I have to
Right.
work with?
Right. There's goofballs in every industry, whether it's, doctors, lawyers, teachers, I mean, policemen, we've all got
Mhm.
goofball, right? That's just society here. The
Yeah,
whatever the law of averages is, they spread the goofballs out. Everybody gets a little dose.
absolutely. So So Jeff's question, right? Can you go a little further? How do you get added on title without paying anything up front? So great question. So let me jump into that. So the next part. So we understood history, how we got here, right? So we talked about installment sales. We talked about the situation in South Carolina, how we got to where we are today. So how do we get on title without paying anything up front? You don't do it without paying anything up front. You've got to come up with money, right? So per, I don't know, common point of view or common law, whatever, you got to give the seller a little bit of money. So typically when you buy a property, you give a homeowner some sort of earnest money deposit, right? 500, $1,000, maybe more, but generally you don't want to go higher than 1,000, right? That's an earnest money deposit. With an installment sale, there are no earnest money deposits. You're giving the seller money. It's their money, right? So if I'm buying David's home, I'm giving him $1,000, right? That's his. It's not earnest money deposit. This is to show you I'm serious, that I'm earnest. That's his money. That's how I'm on ownership. That's how I've earned equitable ownership.
Yeah.
Right. So I am out the money there. If I don't perform for whatever reason, he gets to keep that money. It's not an earnest money deposit. That's David's money. I own $1,000 worth of the home. Right. The other thing, you have to go through a closing company. Right. So in South Carolina, it's an attorney state. So you still have to pay the escrow costs. Yeah. Right. Title fee is optional. If you're not good at doing title search, get a title insurance policy.
Yeah.
If you feel good about it, about your own abilities, then you can forego it. But you have to feel really good. You have to have some experience. You have to know how to do a title search on your own, right?
Yeah. Most
because
people
what are you losing if you're, go ahead.
Can't. Yeah, most people can't do it and probably shouldn't do it because there's going to be stuff in there, liens.
Yeah, it's an advanced strategy.
Yeah,
it's
it's
an
not.
advanced strategy.
Don't go by PropStream. I love PropStream and batch and all.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh my
I
God.
do not
No,
go by the
use,
listed documents there.
Yeah, do not use PropStream to do your title search. Like
Yeah.
I'm talking like you've bought a lot of houses. You know how to do a title search, chain of title, and all that, right? Beyond that, right? Go with Easy REI and use the companies that they associate with.
Yeah.
So, but you still have to pay an escrow fee. You still have to pay title. You still have to pay taxes and all these other things, right? So you're still into it, depending on how you do this, anywhere from $1,500 to $3,500 for closing costs. So this is not free. You're buying a property.
Yes.
Right? You're buying a property. So I paid David $500 to $1,000. That's his. That gives me ownership, equitable ownership. And I still have to pay a third-party company. They're not doing it for free. They're not doing it on seller finance, right? Like they want to get paid their cash money. So are you doing without anything up front? No. That we're buying a house. There's going to be a cost associated with this. Right. But here's what, go ahead, David.
No, I was gonna say, ultimately the goal here, guys, is let just like, let me take it back up 10,000 feet, is, our problem is an assignment of contract. That's just getting legislated to the bone, where, they just keep chopping our box in half and pushing us into the corner. So we're going to have to, come up with another plan other than assignments of contract. So, as much as I've always been a staunch supporter of assignments of contract are baked into common law, they can't do away with it. They're figuring it out, right? And South Carolina has figured it out. And here's why that's important, right? This is the way the world works. Once one state figures it out, the next state just picks up that law, drops it into they change a couple of words, and now they've got that law. So this law is going to go across the country in the next 12 to 18 months. I'm not saying it's going to be in all 50 states, but the states that don't like investors that have some former broker in their state legislature who has, a hard on for investors is going to get this adopted. I promise you I'm not telling you this to scare you. I've made millions of dollars of signing contracts. This is not for me either.
I love wholesaling. Wholesaling has made me a lot of money, right? Like I'm opposed to this, but business owners don't argue the facts. Business owners adapt with the current changing environment, right? Like no one during COVID kept their marketing and sales strategy exactly the same. You shift with the environment. Right. There's a legislative environment. We've got to adjust to it. So As much as we're not a fan of the laws, or at least I'm not a fan of the law,
No,
next,
pain in the
in
ass.
my opinion, in the next 18, 24 months, this will be nationwide, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So, so the other thing too, like, so there's benefit. Like, why would I pay David $1,000, pay an escrow company or a title company $3,000? Why would I do this? Right? I'm out $4,000. Well, you're an equitable owner, right?
yeah,
Right now, the laws say you can't market. Some of the laws, not all, right? A handful of states, you can't market with equitable interest. They no longer recognize equitable interest. So we need equitable ownership. Equitable ownership, you're the freaking owner. You're on title. So what happens if you're on title? Seller can't change their mind. They can't change their mind. How many deals have we lost because the seller changed their minds?
yeah.
How many deals have we lost where the seller decided not to show up at title? How many deals have we lost where another wholesaler saw that we marketed on Investor Lift or Facebook Marketplace and it came in and snaked our deal,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
In this scenario,
So
you're the owner. Like you're
I'm
the
the owner,
owner. Right.
right? So this
Yeah,
is
that's
no different than sub two, right? If I bought a
right.
property sub two, I'm the owner. You cannot change your mind. You do not have legal recourse to undo our agreement. I'm the owner now, right? I kind of joke about this. What was that movie with Tom Hanks where he was hijacked by Somalian pirates?
Oh,
And
I
look
am
at
the captain. I am the
I'm the captain
captain.
now, right? And this is
Yeah.
situation. Look at me, like I'm the owner now. Like you,
Yeah.
no, you did not get a higher offer that you're going to go with. I'm
Mhm.
the owner. Like we cannot do this,
Yeah.
right?
So I actually had got clarification. Of course, we have well, two title companies now, but so with a and this is just basic owner financing kind of stuff, guys. It's a we've created, or they've created a neat little system here to make it all work and go together. But a recorded contract for deed it goes into the chain of title, right? It's because I was not clear on this when we first started talking about this. So, but
Mhm.
this is from underwriters at First American and Fidelity National. Like, this is a real thing. When you record this, you are now effectively the owner on title. Right now, granted, in public record, it hasn't changed yet, but when a search is done, you are the owner. This person cannot possibly sell this. You guys do know that if you record a memo, people can record over, close
Unfortunately,
around it. Yeah, yeah. There is no closing around this contract for deed. Like, it is
yeah.
rock solid.
And if they did, we're getting a title insurance payout,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
it's just this is no different than a second mortgage,
yeah,
right? Someone gets a home equity line of credit, they're not going to sell that house without paying off the home equity line of credit,
yeah,
right? They have to sign off on it. You're on the title. And so what's great about this, right? So I got David. His house is going in foreclosure in 2 weeks, right? So now I go to David and say, hey, how much money do you need today? Right? How much money do you
yeah,
need today? And he says, well, man, like with everything going on, I really need $2,000. Okay, $2,000. Done. I give him $2,000. I'm on title now after a few days,
mhm,
right? Not after we do the 30-day due diligence
mhm,
or any of this stuff. Like I'm the owner, David's got the money now. Okay.
mhm.
Now at this point, I can start marketing the property because I'm the owner. I
Yeah,
can sign a listing agreement with a realtor. I can sign every purchase contract that comes through from the MLS, right? I can sign the settlement statement on the B2C leg. Seller never has to worry about how much money I'm going to make on this deal, right?
yeah,
I'm in full control.
right.
So I get to pay David $1,000. I pay title $2,000, $3,000. I'm into this deal for $3,000 or $4,000, and now I can sell this to a VA or conventional buyer as soon as we close the A to B leg.
Right. So,
So
guys, what that's doing, and there are a couple questions here. I'll just jump in.
yeah,
Is the seller, are you both still on title? Technically, yes. So, and here's why, and I'm going to explain this in just 1 second, so just hang with me. So yeah, the seller is still on public record, right? You do want to do a title search. I promise you want to do a title search, because if you start putting this money down and you take control of this property, and then sometimes you're going to fix it up just like a novation, right? Or wholesale, we're going to put some new carpet and paint in there, and then we're going to go sell this to an MLS buyer, a retail buyer, and then we don't have clear title. You've wasted your freaking time, right? So pay the $300, get the title search. We can do that for you. Also, the magic here is, because the first time I heard it, I'm like, well, why not just close on it in my name, have the title transfer, and then I'm going to resell this again on MLS to a retail buyer, is because if you're getting a buyer with an FHA loan, there's a 90-day seasoning period, which means you're going to have to carry this for 90 days, right? So
Right.
there's a lot of magic built into this system where it's been well thought out so that you can effectively wholesale this, like Steve said, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah, you can wholesale it immediately. So another question. So wouldn't you be the seller? Wouldn't you and the seller be the owners? Yeah, so we're both, and I think you kind of addressed, we're both on title.
yeah,
Sellers on the deed.
yeah,
Sellers on the deed, but they've executed a deed that says that they're selling the house to us. It's just not recorded yet.
right,
It's not recorded until they're paid in full.
yeah,
And they're paid in full when we sell it to an MLS retail buyer.
right. And that's the carrot that gets them to closing as well. Hey, Steve, great, we're gonna close this transaction out. I'm gonna get you your other 320,000. You know,
Mhm.
we
Right.
have to send a notary to your house or whatever.
But we don't even need to send a notary later on. We send a
Yeah,
notary immediately,
yeah,
right? So the pitch I would say is like, hey, David, it sounds like you really need to get this done. You need $1,000 today and you're okay, or you need $2,000 today and you're okay getting the rest in 90 days. It's like, great. We just need to sign some agreements today. And then in 3 days, you're going to get a call from an escrow company. You're going to sign a few more docs. And then the only thing you have to do that after that is just wait for your money to come in. That's
yep,
it. They don't have to sign again at title in 90 days. They've already signed the deed. They already signed the settlement statement. I'm the owner. I'm going to make as much profit as I want to make, and it's none of their business.
yep. And this solves the problem with the realtor board and all the state stuff, because you
Mhm.
are effectively the owner. I mean,
Exactly.
you have the installment method paperwork, essentially the owner financing paperwork that says you are the owner and you have the
Mhm.
right to do this. And Steve, I told you this, like, interestingly enough, in 2010 here in Chattanooga, I got popped by the realtor board for brokering without a license and paid a ton of money to go to an attorney. And this was essentially his workaround 10 years ago. I mean,
Mhm.
it was more complicated than I
Yeah.
went through back then, but like, this was it. You have to find a way to go on title.
Yeah. So
And
you're on title. Go ahead.
right. So the option is you can go get a bunch of hard money and transact bridge funding and pay a bunch of points and do all that stuff, or you can do this, which is a lot faster, cheaper, and smarter.
Yeah. Yeah. I could pay again 1,000 today, 3,000 to a title company, or I could pay points
Yeah,
and 12% and doc fees and
yeah,
monthly payments and all these other things. No, thank you.
yeah. And guys, don't be confused. Like, we are all going to do something. It may not be
Mhm.
today. Like, within the next couple of years, this is going to be a thing. So let's
Yeah.
get ahead of it and solve this problem so that we can not be those people that are getting hung up by the state.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, so what else is there? I think the key here is that we can really serve a homeowner this way, because like the traditional way of wholesaling, where I contracted with you and then you get your money in 30 days, whatever, the seller can't get money ASAP, right? I think that's the first thing. And second, we generally don't recommend giving seller money until until you buy it, because we've seen situations. I've done something earlier in my career, right? Major mistake. I gave the seller money up front, and then they're like, I don't want to sell anymore. I was like, that's not how this works. I already gave you my money, right? The only time I've ever sued a seller for specific performance and I won, it's because I gave them money and they changed their minds, right? So in this instance, we can give them money now. If they need cash today, if they're not sure about the utilities or some moving expenses, a deposit for an apartment, whatever, if they need money today, with installment method, we can do that with confidence because we're now the owner and they can't change their minds.
100%. All right.
Yep.
Questions. Let me put my glasses back on here. What questions do we got? Can this trigger a due on sale clause with the bank?
Yes.
Yeah. But
Yeah. Yes.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So let me address that, right? So how are the banks finding the due on sale? My understanding is generally they're using AI or something else to do a search for all their properties to have the word trust in it. Right? Like they don't have this additional ability, additional oversight. They're looking for properties where this happens. So could this trigger a due on sale clause? Yes. What happens if a due on sale clause is triggered? To begin the foreclosure proceedings, right? If you get this done in 90 days, you're fine. Gary, the founder, right, the genius behind it, he recommends 90 days. Arizona, I was doing 180. So, but you have to know that you got it locked up at a price where you can sell it within 90 days. So could it trigger a due on sale clause? Yes, it could. But this doesn't solve all the problems. It solves our problems and the ability to transact real estate for profit. And there's nobody's business how much profit we're making, because this is the problem we're running into today. There are other people that don't like the fact that we're buying properties and making a profit. National Association of Realtors don't like it. We get to operate. We still get to be in the real estate business.
This removes all the hocus pocus of I'm a wholesaler, but I'm not going to tell you I have an end buyer because I will get you in trouble, right? This takes all of those things away. Like this is really, it's old school investing. Honest to God, it's the way it probably was 90 years ago, right? I'm going to take title, I'm going to do whatever I want with this property, fix it up, or resell it. So
back in the days of land contracts of 10% down, 10% interest due in 10 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I bought hundreds of properties this way. It definitely works, like without question. But if your goal is to not hold it, then great. Now you're the owner and now you can resell it. Very, very simple. It's literally, it's genius in how simple it is.
It really is. It really is. So JK's question, can we buy a system from y'all with scripts and contracts?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm going to give you guys a little link here in just a minute. I'm just waiting on it from somebody. But yeah, I'll drop a link here where you guys can get more information on it.
Yep, absolutely. How to navigate when there are errors. I mean, if there are errors, you have to clear title.
Right.
So either way, like again, what Dave was mentioning earlier, like you want to be able to clear title. So if you got errors, they're gonna have to sign off on it. If you're talking about a probate situation, that doesn't go away. And I think that's kind of it's fascinating, right? Because like we've come up with a solution to an existing problem, which also solves additional problems, which is seller changing their mind, seller going dark, getting snake bite out of the wholesaler, right? And we get to sell it to a conventional buyer, not a cash buyer. And then there are other people, but it doesn't do A, B, and C. It's like, this is not a cure-all. This is not a magic pill. This is just a way for us to continue transacting business and continue doing real estate.
Yep, 100%.
Yep. Where's the best place? Yeah, so David's going to post a link below. So is this issue with the law that you can't market the property as a wholesale? Yeah, this directly addresses the issue that you can't market the property as a wholesale. So let's go ahead and jump back into where we're talking about the language in the contract, right? Because it's kind of funny. And then Nick, let's not make sure we don't forget Nick's question about the 90-day rule. Okay, so there are gurus on both sides. I categorize myself as a guru. I don't think guru is a bad word. A lot of people do. I don't think guru is a bad word. So I categorize myself as one of the gurus. I'm of the interpretation that this prevents and prohibits wholesaling in the state of South Carolina, right? Now, there are some people that say this does not prohibit wholesaling. And the reason why it doesn't prohibit wholesaling is because there's specific language in there that says that assignment of a contract does not mean wholesaling. True, right? I think if you want to hinge your entire business off that one sentence, like, so be it. At the end of the day, the other part of the bill says brokering a contract it's marketing a contract with real estate being implied in the contract is considered brokering. If it's brokering, this now means it's regulated by the Real Estate Commission. Last time I checked, the Real Estate Commission does not like wholesalers. No. So like, to say that, yeah, well, this part says you can assign it. Yes, you can assign it, right? No one says you can't assign, right? It's the marketing of the property. and that the act of selling a contract with a property involved is considered brokering. And once it's brokering, it's regulated by the real estate commission. So yeah, maybe the language is loose today. Maybe it's loose today. But if you don't think the real estate commission is not going to come in here and now that they have the authority to regulate wholesaling, that they're not going to say it's illegal. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of people, again, I was watching one this morning. Lots of people
Mhm.
on, on the internet talking a lot of nonsense, especially young kids that
Mhm.
don't know their butt from a hole in the ground, that have done wholesaling for a year. Like attorneys who make a lot of money from wholesalers are having to say, geez, man, I can't do these deals anymore. Like these guys, it's
Yeah.
costing them a lot of money. And you're going to be very hard pressed to find an attorney who will just close a wholesale deal for you in South Carolina. And great, I don't care about South Carolina. I don't do deals. Okay, no problem. But what are you going to do when it's Virginia and Alabama and Oklahoma and Phoenix and when this thing
And
starts bubbling?
Georgia and Florida and
Yeah,
Texas, right?
because I
It's
mean,
cap. It's hap. It's this is like just the end of like you watch basketball or NFL, right? The you got what was it in Tennessee? Is it the what's your guys' NFL team?
Titans,
Titans,
Tennessee
right?
Titans.
Tennessee
Yep,
Titans. Tennessee Titans figure something out. They figure out how to stop Patrick Mahomes. We run this defense. Patrick
yeah,
Mahomes isn't scoring 49 points a game. You think every other NFL team's not watching that game tape
yeah,
and copying it? That it's going to be the same. Like if South Carolina's figured it out, all the other states are going to figure it out.
yeah,
So uh, do you take overpayments during the 90 to 180 day period? Completely what you negotiate. This is complete, just like novations that we did before. It could be no, it could be yes, it's whatever you negotiate, right? That's key here. Um, and this affects doing novation versus just assigning contracts. If in the novation you are marketing a property that you do not own,
yeah.
then yes. So I talked to someone on Eric Brewer's team yesterday at great length about novations,
Hmm.
and they don't do the power of attorney thing anymore, right? They have the seller sign the listing agreements now. They have the
Yeah,
seller sign the purchase contracts. So if that's how you do innovations, I think it's totally fine. If you're using a power of attorney to market the property that you don't own, this would affect that. And then the question about the due on sale, oh, not the due on sale, the 90-day. So my understanding, I'm not a lawyer. My understanding is doing installment sale does trigger the 90-day seasoning period,
yeah,
unfortunately. Right? So you are restricted. You can only sell to conventional and VA and USDA and cash buyers.
right. Yeah, and
But it's
even if
not
it
FHA
does,
buyers.
yeah, I've had a bunch of loans called due, and they are going to give you 90 days to pay it off. So as long as you are going to follow this through, you should be okay. I'm not
Yeah.
again not legal advice by any means, but yeah, I
Right.
mean I've got that link coming.
Okay. So is anything else? I mean, that's basically it. Like I look at it as this is you can continue doing business the way you've been doing it. You can get ahead of it. We've been talking about installments since November, I believe. Devin Robinson came onto Real Estate Disruptors back in November,
Mhm.
and we've been talking about it, saying, "Hey, change is right around the corner. Change is right around the corner." You know what he's doing right now? He is cleaning up all the PPL companies in South Carolina,
Yep.
like their clients, South Carolina. They're panicking because like there's not as many people to sell their leads to. So Devin's buying all the leads, all of them
Yep.
in South Carolina, right? So if you want to put yourself in a unique position to seize the opportunity when your market is in disarray, the only way to do that is to be prepared ahead of time, not wait, right? Because Devin and I have been talking about this since November,
Yep.
right? And then as soon as it's dropped, all the lead providers are freaking out because all the wholesalers have stopped buying. And now Devin is just living his best life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, or again, or the alternative is, like Jerry Norton, he's just secured millions and millions of dollars in funding, and he's just going to go close
Yeah.
on them, which
That's
you
the
can
other way.
do. But
Right. So So David, back in the day, did installment sales, right, to get around
yeah,
this,
yeah,
right? Back in the day, that's what you did. Uh, Jerry's raising a bunch of capital,
sure.
which is how I bought my first deals,
Yep.
right? So we're not saying like this business is over. We're just saying if you want to get ahead of it so that you can crush the competition because you have an unfair advantage.
Yeah, and there is guys, I've raised millions of dollars and done, dozens of rehabs at a time. There is a limit about how much money you can raise. And
Hmm.
it's a struggle. There's just a better way. You just don't have to do it. Right. This is
Right.
much, much, much smarter and faster, quicker, cleaner way to do these properties. So, yeah. What other questions we got? Anybody? We got 50 people on here, 40 people on here. We've done that good of a job explaining it to everybody. Anybody think this isn't a real thing and we're being hyperbolic or pan anybody want to go ahead and say that? That's okay. There it is. Cool. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, that's good. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
How do you position to the seller? So great question, JK. So I think the big thing is it's it's the same way I used to pitch innovations, right? So hey, JK, so it seems like it's really important you get this amount of money. Unfortunately, I can't pay you that amount of money cash. I can pay you that amount of money if you can give me some time. And that's it. So then you get that signed. So it's really simple. Yeah. So yes, you have ownership. You're not on the deed. You're an equitable owner, right? You look just like a mortgage would look like on that. You mentioned putting home an MLS. You would need a listing service for that if you aren't a licensed realtor, correct? Yeah, absolutely. So anyone that if you look at the biggest operators, right? So again, I'm a collective genius right now. We have 240 of the biggest operators in the country. They put deals on the MLS. They use whether a licensed realtor within their organization or they use a flat fee service. So yes, you would have to.
Cool. Yeah, guys, I just
Yep.
dropped that link in the chat. So go ahead and click that and well, don't click it till you've got it before we sign off. But yeah,
Yeah.
we want to keep answering everybody's questions.
Yeah. So I got a couple minutes left. I hope this was valuable for everybody. So you guys have
Yeah.
1 or 2 questions. We'll slam it out. I got to catch a flight actually to
And
go home.
you're definitely catching it this time, right?
Oh man, as long as I don't say you too when he says a safe flight. That was like when the last time when the Uber driver said have a safe flight and I said you too.
You think that was it?
That was it. That was the curse. It screwed everything up. So my
Oh,
flight was canceled 3 different times.
oh
So
my God.
yeah.
Well,
And there's no thunderstorms today.
yeah. Well, I got delayed the extra day coming out of Phoenix last week or whatever it was when I was coming home. So
Yeah, you have
thanks.
one more day, more time to spend in Phoenix. Phoenix is great.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, one more,
Yeah.
a little bit more time. So, well, cool, guys. I appreciate everybody who popped on. Hopefully you got some value. So more or less negotiate a sale price, send a non-refundable deposit over to title, market the property. Well, Jeff, it's a little bit more than that. You're actually going to take title, and you're going to take title through the installment sale, which is just a form of owner financing. Yeah, it's not a deposit. That is your payment to the seller. And you can whatever deal you guys negotiate, you can negotiate, right? You may just say, hey, I'm going to give you one payment for 90 days, or one payment now, and the rest when I resell it. Or you could say, hey, I'm going to give you $1,000 a month until I sell it, right? Like you can negotiate. Again, we're investors. We can negotiate anything we want. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, 20% interest, 10% interest. It's could just be a flat fee, right? And hey, that $1,000 will come off of the purchase price.
Yep.
So cool. Any thoughts on states going after tax liens? States are not going after tax liens because they want them to sell. But your problem with a tax lien is that, reselling it is a problem. You can't sell it with title insurance unless you clear the title either with a super quiet title or you get the previous seller. If the only issue is that the previous seller didn't sign, you can get them to sign a quitclaim deed, but you still want to be
Yep.
doing a search there. So tax liens are a great strategy, but you should be buying them for 30 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
Cool. What else?
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for allowing me to share my perspective,
Yeah.
right? Uh, so I think this is, again, I think anyone that jumps on board, they're going to be able to clean up. They're going to have an unfair advantage
Yeah.
when
Yeah. This is
regulation
the
changes.
thing. You want to be early to this party, not late, guys. Like the original guys who were innovations just absolutely mopped the floor. This is the next thing, right? Our business unfortunately is changing. We've known this was coming for a long time. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring Steve on here is to kind of present that and get the word out so that you guys you know, can prosper and and keep making money and not get hung up by the states. So
Yeah.
Steve, I
Thank you,
appreciate.
David. Just real quick, because
Oh,
you brought that up. I haven't really said this out loud a lot, right? But Eric Brewer brought innovations to the market, right?
mhm,
It was something he brought to the market in 2020. It came out to the market because I told him this is a product that needs to be brought to the public. And so everyone that learned novations when he taught it killed it.
yeah,
Everyone that waited for the market to shift to start doing novations was late to the game.
right.
And there's the same thing here with installment method. Like, don't make the same mistake again.
Yep,
Yep.
100%.
Yep. All right. Thanks, David. Thanks for letting me share with your group.
Man, thank you so much for stepping out of your meeting and popping
Yeah.
on. I know everybody here really appreciates it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All
All
right.
right,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.
See ya.